everyone, and welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games, where we are on time on the return of breaks every single time. There's not even a question at all, or at least I am. I'm Raven, and joining me just about managed to get here is Lorinda. How are you doing after that set?
I'm good, apart from that run has exhausted me. But yeah, that was a fantastic set to watch build. It was one of the best games of the day, and I think it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, I agree. It was a really awesome set, and I'll give you a minute to just recover while we talk about the match we've got coming up. It's going to be probably, you'd say, probably the highlight match of the day, and it is the 6th match for today. We're deviating a little bit from the usual schedule and plugging an extra one in here. We can see how the overall schedule has gone today with a 3-2 to Israel versus Norway, 3-1 for France versus Kazakhstan, Belarus going down 0-3 to Czech Republic, Bulgaria beating out Sweden just about in a 3-2, and then the match we just saw, Greece taking on their good friends Portugal, but winning 3-2 over those as well. And now we've got coming up Romania versus United States, and this is going to be a big deal for both of these teams, as Romania is currently 0-2 in the group, and basically at the bottom of this group and need to win this match, whereas United States actually 2-0 so far and want to continue that winning streak.
Yeah, United States in this tough-looking group, making it look easy so far. Romania, one of the biggest favourites coming into this, especially carrying on the back of RDU, but the rest of their team are strong as well. I feel a big surprise they're this low, and it's just not getting any easier now. They've got to take on the might of the USA.
Yeah, one of the most dominant teams. We can check out what the teams look like themselves, as we see for Romania is RDU, Moody, Hannibal Z, and Tracky Style as well. Whereas for United States, we have Amnesiac, Dog, Firebat, and Hot Meowth. And United States have been performing very well indeed. Some very great wins, especially over the UK, unfortunately for us, Lorinda. But Romania, for these guys, everything to play for now. They, as we said, 0-2 down in the group, and it need this win to give them any form of decent chance to qualify later on.
Yeah, just going to take a quick look at yet another picturesque nation. I'm sick of saying the word beautiful about all these lovely places. Romania, obviously, many good things about it to go there.
I've been to Romania, that's one I can actually say. And
you're not with Sottle, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it does count. I'm still taking it. I've been to Romania, and I actually was hanging out with RDU. It's always nice to have locals around you as well to show you around. And it's definitely a cool place. I do want to go back there pretty soon. I had a lot of fun, so that was awesome. I've also been to America, but
I've been to the United States.
Only one small portion of it, only California so far for me, but we'll look forward to traveling around a few more states as time goes on.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few of the states. Love it over there. And yeah, looking forward to you just catching up and letting me know what you think when you've been to some. Because I'm an experienced world traveller, as we found out last week.
Yeah, so we can see how the matchups are going to line up here for these two countries facing off again. One last time for today, going over the format. It's a team best of 5. First team to 3 wins takes the series, and each player can choose one of the 2 classes they've locked in to play against the player opposite them on this screen. Effectively playing in a best of 1. Potential for an ace match later on. The 5th game needs to be played out. It's going to start off with Moody versus Dog, and Dog with the choice of a Warrior and Warlock, and Moody going for the Rogue or Hunter to be played. So a couple of pairings, or one pairing we've not seen too often is like Hunter Rogue, but definitely Warrior Warlock seems to be a continued theme with the sheer power of Warrior one way or the other. In one hand you have the hyper aggressive Pirate Warrior, the other hand Taunt Warrior. The third hand that no one has nor cares about is Warlock at this point.
Right, Hunter Rogue's an interesting one though, because Hunter is almost a throwaway class, though we just saw both teams were willing to use it in the ace match. But with the Rogue is a class you want to play, and yeah, this Hunter's going to be interesting because they're putting it in a situation where they may feel that Dog's going to play Pirates here.
Yeah, I think this is generally just a worry for Hunter overall. I've spoken quite a lot the past couple of weeks about how Hunter actually really struggles versus Quest Warrior, in fact. Especially because Quest Warrior has the upper hand in there are different builds of Hunter, but you know what its goal is, right? Hunter's goal doesn't really change or deviate from, trying to curve out with strong beasts and going aggressive and going face, whereas, Quest Warrior can just deal with that, normally mulligan away the quest to get, the Fire Warracks, the early taunts, and then as soon as they clear the board once with, a Sleep with the Fishes, a Brawl, whatever, it's very hard for the Hunter to come back onto it. And on the other hand, without, some of the traps, really explosive traps, freezing trap, Pirate Warrior can actually just kill them pretty quick as well. So it's kind of a rough one. I feel this one's going to be for Moody.
We've seen a lot of Swamp King Dread today, and one thing that does is in your opponent's turn, it deals with tar minions really, really well.
That's true.
And it deals with all these low health attack minions in general, but particularly with Tar Creeper, Tar Lord. Those things only have one attack in your opponent's turn.
Yeah, so it's definitely one that can pile in a lot of damage, but I think one of the problems is a lot of the time at the point that Swamp King Dread can even come out, the Hunter's either ahead or too far behind at that point, and Swamp King Dread not normally on its own is going to be able to actually take that win. Check out some extra additional information, or not, depending on what TJ decides to throw us here about just dogs in general, not Dog the player for Team Liquid. I'm sure you guys can just read what's being shown up there, but Dog very recently as well, top 8 at DreamHack. This past weekend, very strong performance. I believe he went 10-1 in series through Swiss in elimination.
9-0 in the Swiss.
Actually beat out his teammate Amnesiac in the first round of the top 16 elimination as well. So I hope there's no hard feelings over there.
Talking about beating out their teammates, that one of those Moody finishes was second at PGL, and he lost to Tracky Style in that final last year. So those two guys are both basically as good as you can get against beating each other in the final of Bucharest.
I actually remember casting that final quite vividly because it was Hunter. We're played for both players, so I do roughly remember the overall styles and lists. They were mainly like face hunters back in the
days when you didn't play mage. Yeah.
Back in the days where I just played hunter. Yeah.
Interesting to see, and we're getting the hunter here, so obviously something that stuck with him for all this time.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think it's all on just what Dog's going to play here, because we saw the old bait and switch where Dog ended up playing Pirate Warrior and probably threw off the opposition and kind of demolished with it, very similar to what Firebat did the week before to the UK as well. So that was a big interesting one there, and it looks like we're going to have the same again. And I definitely feel like this is either Firebat Pirate Warrior or USA Pirate Warrior, with the addition of this Worgen Infiltrator. We've seen Team USA use this card over and over again in Hearthstone Global Games specifically, whereas Moody, yet again, the different builds of Hunter can vary a little bit, but overall we are seeing just key cards again and again. Direwolf becoming much more of a staple in the deck. The addition of Eaglehorn Bow moving on as it's a lot of mage for board focus minions. You can actually just clear up with that 3 attack.
And this is an absolutely atrocious hand for Romania. And as you say, United States with that Worgen giving that extra little bit of guaranteed damage. Like if you take the Rogue and take the 50-50. Because on the assumption you lose to Pirates and beat Quest and it's about 50-50, then you're okay. But they may have made the read, they may correctly made the read that it wasn't Quest Warrior.
Also,
and so they did pick the deck with the better chance.
Yeah, and we need to bear in mind that there was 2 kill commands and a bow off the the initial draw for Moody here. Like if he had more, he did get the 2 1-drops, the 2 cats obviously off the top. But if he had Grandmother, a Razormaw, something you can actually get work done and stick to the board, whereas the 1/1s were cleaned up very, very easily here. Now, Corcoran Elite, another option.
Yeah, when 2 of the cards as Hunter you have in your opening hand haven't been played as you're about to die, something didn't go well.
Exactly, yeah, and Corcoran Elite is going to be really nice here. Almost guarantees the win. Trade in, buff the Frothing for 1, so you only lose 2 damage here, but then you just hit for 12, put him to 4. Molt Strike just wins unless somehow Moody is taking in, a Reno that isn't even in the rotation at this point. So yeah, there's pretty much what we can see with Dog's hand. Nothing Moody can do about it, and it is as easy as that. Dog does it again with the Pirate Warrior, and I actually believe Pirate Warrior is 3-0 for USA now. Firebat won with it in the first match, and then Dog has taken it twice now and won both times as well, I believe. So USA don't care for Taunt Warrior. They don't have time for this. They're just going to Pirate Warrior, get him in the face, and it seems to be working.
We are actually seeing Pirate Warrior not played that much, and when it is played, it's doing well because people aren't they are expecting that. People know it can be played, but because Quest Warrior is being played slightly more, people are picking wrong against the Pirates a lot of the time at the moment.
And I think one of the problems as well is because of how sort of controlly the meta is at the moment. You are building decks to, kind of have a little bit more edge against the mid-range, the late control decks, which opens up a bit of a spot for Pirate Warrior to just slip in there. Next matchup we've got coming up is Hannibal Z versus Amnesiac. Amnesiac going for the Druid over the Rogue. Druid-Rogue, a pairing we've seen quite often, whereas Hannibal Z has foregone the Paladin, which is one of the, if not the strongest classes at the moment, and gone for the Warlock. I mean, sort of we're talking earlier about, is someone going to find a Warlock deck to play and be successful with? We saw yesterday Handlock isn't the deck. Let's see what Hannibal Z has.
Well, RDU is known for being good at Zoo. Zoo is known for being good against Druid, although it may not be as good as it was with the inclusion of Tar Creepers and such like. Maybe that's their thinking. We can Zoo down Jade Druid, which is the predominant Druid at the moment. But it's by no means certain that if it is the aggro Druid, things could get messy quickly. Very interesting to see what this build of Warlock is here for Romania.
Okay, I'm going to bring up something really random here, Lorinda. Last time I cast Amnesiac, there was a shoebox exactly where it is now with shoes on it. Maybe they've not even moved, and that was over a week ago. I need to ask, I'm going to tweet Amnesiac after this and say, why is there a shoebox in the middle of your room every single day? It's really strange. If anyone knows the answer to this, let me know as well.
Maybe he hasn't sold them. Maybe he's a shoe shop.
But why would you just put them in the middle of a room? Is he just showing off his kicks to the audience, to all the viewers?
So. Maybe so. I mean, you are the clothing expert amongst us.
Thanks, mate.
So you are the one who's going to work out where shoeboxes belong?
I mean, maybe he's showing them off. That's pretty reasonable. Amnesiac is, of course, commonly and more oftenly referred to as the George C. of America. We worked out that Pavel wasn't even sure who he was at one point as well in his pre-interview, which was kind of funny. So, we'll see how that one plays out for the rest of the year.
Commonly referred to as the George C.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's reasonable.
I just read it as you were saying. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's because you just pointed out. I was like, Lorinda, that's exactly what I just said. Hannibal Z, on the other hand, earned a reasonable sum of HCT points for Romania. In third highest total for the Romanians. 27 in total. Nothing too crazy, but definitely not a low amount. It's not like he just hit legend every single time anyway. So it's pretty.
This team does well at DreamHack events, right? Because that PGO Tavern Tales was also at a DreamHack. RDU's had a fair share of DreamHacks. We've already mentioned Tracky Style and Moody have done well at other DreamHack events.
Yeah, Tavern Tales, yeah.
So which is held at DreamHack. So it's
in Romania.
Yeah,
which probably helps a little bit as well.
What are you saying about Romanians?
Well, if some people can't travel to Romania apart from the people that live in Romania.
Why can't they travel
They
there?
probably have a lot of life reasons why. I don't know. I'm not going to ask everyone. But it looks like the players are going to get ready into this game while Lorinda just sorts himself out at this point. It's going to be Zoo versus the aggro Druid. You can see already the tech they probably wish they had in the last game in the form of the Galaka Crawler. Might have been in the Hunter list regardless. It's not a bad shout at all. But yeah, this is looking to be good old Zoo. Not going to be Quest Zoo, unfortunately for you, Lorinda, even though you think that's good. We'll wait maybe a couple of years to see if that happens at some point in Wild. But the Galaka Crawler is going to be kept because there is a Pirate opening potential from Druid, if it's an aggro Druid, if they're expecting it. And also, it's just a reasonable 2-drop, 2 mana, 2/3 that might have an upside. Great.
Percentage placed player memes aside from Amnesiac here, Mark of the Lotus is one of the best cards to keep in the mulligan, and he chose to keep it as his only card there, just playing the numbers, knowing that the likelihood is he's going to pick up stuff to go with it because that's how the deck is built.
Yeah, it's the nature of numbers in general. As long as you just keep doing the same thing, playing to those outs, then it's going to happen at some point. And having the Firefly is a fantastic opening, but we can see Team Romania and Hannibal Z also has a Firefly. Got a few choice openings for himself. If he holds off a little bit, say maybe just plays Zone Firefly this turn, he could go Juggler, Coin, either Blood Cell Corsair, or another 1-drop next turn as well.
Yeah, this Juggler might get a whole bunch of work done here. Very good inclusion. Obviously a staple in most Zoo decks anyway, but when you've got all these 1-drops and you're trying to fend off aggro, definitely a card you'd like to see in your opening hand.
I think here from Amnesiac, all depends on how greedy he wants to be as Mark of the Lotus. He could Blood Cell Corsair, pull out patches from the deck, play and then just play Mark of the Lotus to have a clean trade into the Firefly, push for additional 2. Or he could play it a little bit slower, go wide, trade anyway, but develop the Flame Elemental
Does
then
he
potentially
sniff out the crawler?
Well, are you ever going to just play around it? Are you just never going to play, you sort of, you power cards in terms of Corsair into patches into a buff? Or he could go wider with minions and then just play Power of the Wild and Mark of the Lowest next
I
time.
mean, this would be an incredible read if he just went Flame Elemental Mark to play around the crawler, but he's discussing something in an animated fashion. Why have they picked Warlock into us as Druid? He's going to play the sensible play, though.
It feels too
You
good,
just
right?
can't make the silly play unless you've got 100% read on it.
Well, also, there's 2 pirates and potentially, or more than likely, only 1 crawler, if any, in this list. And also, because it is Warlock and, you get in the kind of the read that it is Zoo, of course, then you've got to just make the presumption that, well, either they might just not even play crawler, or they might not have it in hand. If playing around a card like that specific just stops you playing well at all, then you may as well not bother. It's going to get punished, though.
Yeah, the crawler goes out. There's a Druid of the Claw.
This is one of the slightly later game builds of the aggro druid we've been seeing. We saw a swipe in his opening hand as well, so there are lists that, again, with aggro druid, you do get most of the way a lot of the time, then the board's cleared and you've got no way to end the game. Rocking to, well, 1 swipe's just a good card for a start, but having direct damage from hand, 4 damage from hand is actually really nice and can often just finish out that game with the help of a hero power rod too.
Which beggars the question, do you think there will be any Murlocs in this deck? Sottle was talking about that earlier. Maybe the day of the Murlocs might be starting to come to a close.
For Druid, at least.
For Druid.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be cuts somewhere, and I think the Murlocs are the most volatile parts of the deck list, right? The Murlocs on their own just aren't good, and then you've got to be very reliant on drawing exactly Finger, ready for turn 5, to get a trade, to pull the Murlocs. It's a lot of ifs. Yeah, I'm going to see the Juggler come down now with that Patches combo. Not going to do anything too crazy, or they can clear up the Power of the Wild Panther there quite easily, and can even coin into a Flame Elemental or potentially Soulfire.
Right, so if they think they're in front, they'll coin into the Elemental. If they think they're behind, they'll coin into the Soulfire and see if they can hit the Silverware Golem.
I wonder if it was the other way around, actually. If you think you're ahead, you can get even more ahead by coining into Soulfire.
Yeah, okay.
You should remove 1 more minion, you might actually get rid of the Silverware Golem and put, that comes onto the board as well, and then you dominate from there, but suddenly Team USA is in a bit of a rougher spot now. Second Power of the Wild, probably going to be used to generate a 3-2, and this patch is probably going to go into the Juggler and not much else, to be honest.
Yeah, the Juggler has to be dealt with because even though the hand at the moment doesn't suffer to Juggler, it will do. There's a lot of 1s and 2s in this deck with very, very low health totals.
I think Zoo is very often 28 minions and 2 spells at this point. There's the 2 Soulfires and minions, so the odds on your opponent chaining minions turn after turn with the Juggler on board, very, very high indeed.
So United States need to work out how they could ever win this game because they know how Zoo spirals out of control and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. How would you even approach this? Obviously the Druid of the Claw will set up a temporary roadblock in a moment, but it is only temporary.
It definitely depends how this deck is built and how deep it goes. Suddenly the swipes would be very, very nice draws indeed, just to try and reset the board a little bit. But you've got to wonder what the recovery options are here. And Amnesia going for raw value. Actually just going to play out the Savage Roar, kill off the Juggler, and get a value trade with the Patches.
Yeah, and that effectively kills 1 extra minion because the Patches obviously will get to kill something else. Romania won't mind that. They will play to kill something else. They're both playing the same game at this point, but that favours the Zoo massively. The Druid isn't built in general. I mean, we see the Druid of the Claw is maybe different, but it isn't built to play this trading game. They're just doing what they can with a bad position.
I wonder if there's just going to be a 50-50 here with the Soulfire. Because you can't play 2 minions this turn anyway. You could, it sounds crazy, but you could just Soulfire the Patches, save a minion on board, and then push next turn.
The only problem I have with that is they will be wondering about what to do about living mana, and they may need everything available, every single resource available to them for that. Oh, a second Druid of the Claw. That's going to enable the United States to possibly attack with the first one and stodge things up with the second.
maybe even just attack with both if you can get good trades, right?
Uh-huh.
If you can reduce the zoo board, that's normally how you win in almost every matchup. Druid of the Claw charge into the Golaka Crawler could be pretty reasonable because at worst, outside of a Defender of Argus, the Councilman trading into it means you can just hero power the Councilman down the turn after anyway.
So you've got to have the talk about whether you think there's going to be Mortal Coil in this deck. With it being a very low curve deck that they've queued into your Druid, you just got to have the talk.
Yeah,
because there isn't a standard Warlock build right now because no one plays it.
Would very quickly end in no, we are not playing around Mortal Coil.
Sure, but I mean they could choose just to make a 4/6. But I agree with you. I think they will charge, and they agree with us, which is always nice.
It's the fact that you've got the second Druid of the Claw, right? You can actually just push forward so much additional board control now. With the Malchezaar's Imp, you can guarantee the throw of the Silverware Golem to hit the board. Still get a card draw as well. So 1 mana, deal 4 damage, play a 3/3, draw a card. Yeah. Okay.
That seems like a card I'd play. And they agree.
The beginnings of Warlock dominance starts now. Silverware Golem, not a terrible pickup. There's probably a lot of 1-drops that could have been played this turn, but now you know if there's a discard draw next turn, you can guarantee the Silverware Golem hit the board again. Swipe is now picked up, so Swipe hero power an option to just kill off this Councilman before it gets too crazy.
And now having to charge again is just a sad sight, to be honest.
It trades for 2 minions, right? When if you played Druid of the Claw in Taunt, then the Councilman would just trade very easily with it. Now Doomguard couldn't have asked for a better card. Draws 1 more card, plays the other Silver Golem. Amnesiac just laughs. He's like, you know what, Zoo? You got me. Warlock isn't played often. I'll let you have this win, as I'm struggling to see how Amnesiac is even going to get back into this game, if at all even possible.
I blame the shoebox.
It's just weird, isn't it? I don't get it.
I don't really know. I don't tend to...
Do you have a shoebox in the middle of your room at home?
Which room?
Any room.
No.
Well, there you go. Okay, so Hannibal Z did get the win, and is he the first guy to do something good with Warlock in the whole of Hearthstone Global Games? Maybe this could be the beginning of the end of the not seeing Zoo on ladder. That kind of works if you listen carefully to what I said. But no surprise, again, you mentioned RDU, probably one of the world's most known Zoo players, if that, over the course of years. So no true surprise that they thought they'd give it a risk in their Romanian team. RDU probably was took a very close role in that exact game. And now RDU is going to be coming up next with the Shaman, compared with the Warrior, but picked against the Paladin/Mage. We are going to see the Shaman versus Paladin, a matchup we've seen, I think, fairly often in the past couple of days.
Yeah, the combinations of Paladin, Mage, and Shaman, we've seen them sort of going up against each other. Some very, very long value-based matchups, and we're going to see it again here with Meowth versus RDU. The other 2 decks we've seen from the US so far have been very aggressive. Do you feel that they'll go for a lineup of all aggressive stuff, or do you think maybe they'll mix it up and have a mid-range Paladin like everybody else has today?
I don't know. Even the aggressive Paladin lists can go, mid to late game, right? So even that can go late. Just a note as well, you may recognize this background if you watched yesterday when Pavel and Stam were playing, as RDU is also currently in China getting ready to play China versus EU. His match is tomorrow. I believe his first game is against Omega Zero, going to be coming up tomorrow. But for today, he's in China. He's flown over there recently, so in the past 24 hours, I think. And I have no idea what time it is in China at the moment, but you've got to think that's travel, that's some fatigue. He might be relying on his teammates a little bit more than normal here, just to say, look, I'm probably a little bit tired. You might need to just... A little bit of extra focus as well. Not that they wouldn't focus anyway.
Yes, it'd be silly o'clock in the morning. I don't know what time it is here anymore, but it's
like 1 or something.
If it's 1 here, it's like 7 a.m. in China right now.
Okay, so depending on where he landed, maybe not too bad. His opponent, though, Hot Meat Out. You may remember him from such shows as the World Championships last year at BlizzCon. He brought the Rage Warrior deck, or the Blood Warriors, regardless of what you want to call it. Didn't have amazing success with it, but definitely...
So polite.
Factually correct. But definitely put his name on the map. You know, one, for being willing to try something a little bit risky, well, very risky to be completely honest, and also just being an interesting character and a fairly new face to the Hearthstone scene, and has continued to drop in there. Has played in other majors. You know,
Right.
I think he streams a little bit as well. Recently joining the team, so he's doing okay for himself, and he's now on the United States team with being the anchor with the most points off the back of that BlizzCon performance.
Yeah, and it's important to say that he went to BlizzCon, he did that risky maneuver, and a few people are like, this guy is just a one-hit wonder, just a bit of a memer. He then recently followed up, posted his imaginary deck list saying, I'm playing these. It was, he's doing it again. Turned up with just a standard,
Just trolled us.
sensible lineup, trolled everybody, and he's backing it up. He's getting results over and over. He's showing in top 16s, top 32s of tournaments, and showing that it wasn't just a one-hit thing where he decided to meme at BlizzCon. He is actually I'm going to say serious player, but a player with serious intentions anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's taken his career in Hearthstone very seriously. You can see with his team jersey on there as well. And he's going up against maybe the polar opposite of Hot Meowth here. RDU plays good stuff all the time, and he's got a long and storied career in Hearthstone. And already we see the Spirit Echo Shaman. I feel like this is just going to become a continued theme going out throughout the rest of Global Games and the rest of this meta cycle, whereas Hot Meowth is rocking the slightly more aggressive opening with the Murloc Tie Collar. But we did see Spite Ridge Steed in the opening hand initially, so it's kind of what I mentioned, right? Spite Ridge Steed, not the most aggressive card in the world, played in aggressive Murlocs because the Paladin deck can just go late.
And I think we saw a Peacekeeper as well, though I could be mistaken. No, I wasn't mistaken. There it is. Thank you,
Yeah,
Peacekeeper.
you saw it right then.
Yeah, and so a mixture of all of the stuff in here. People just using the value of Finja rather than trying to cheat out a huge combo. They're just going, 2 Murlocs is fine.
Yeah.
It thins my deck of these garbage Murlocs that I don't want on turn 9.
Yep.
And also, it's just absolutely fine.
Well, the thing is, with Megasaur, you want a board of Murlocs, right? You know, and having Vilefin already straight off the bat means that the hero power is going to generate 1/1 Murlocs, and we saw what happened in the Sweden match, where Orange just demolished with the Murlocs. He built up an early board and just ran away with the game because he got a Megasaur off, he got extra damage, he just pushed it through, and it was very, very successful. So that's what Hot Meowth's going to be planning to do here, whereas RDU is going to be planning his defense and working out exactly whether he wants to play Jade Claws this turn.
Playing the Jade Claws this term is a decent answer to this. The only problem being that it's not a good answer. It's just something that you can kill 1 Murloc with, and the rest of the stuff might get out of hand quickly.
I think importantly as well, it overloads him for next turn, which means his next turn would be hero power, which might not be enough. Basically.
And your thing from below doesn't come down on the turn you want it to come down. It doesn't come down on turn 4 if you don't hero power on turn 2. Yeah. And that is where you're going to start facing down the bigger stuff, and you need that on board as quickly as possible in a lot of scenarios.
Although, looking at RDU's hand and Team Romania in general, is that hand's actually shaping up pretty well. Mana Tide next turn is, gets around the awkwardness of just hero powering on turn 3 to set you into that thing from below. And then having Volcano just available straight off the bat means any early starts from the Murloc Paladin, you can pretty much just clear the board out unless there's the the plus health buff, Megasaur for example as well, that makes them just a little bit too big to clear the whole board, but very, very likely that a turn 5 Volcano just clears this.
Yeah, it would clear it out, but looking at the hand, the United States will have a reload potential after that. So if there was a turn 5 Volcano, maybe Finja on turn 5 as response for instant would just... It doesn't reload the board immediately, but it makes things really hard for Shaman, who wants to be pressing that hero power button.
Yeah, well, depending on the board state, there might be a coin Finja, and then turn 5 Volcano gets even more work done because it will target Finja.
Yeah, that would be an absolute blowout if that were to happen. RDU here is going to be looking into just tapping for the thing from below, but too much stuff is happening to him, and he wants to kill this before the secret is played, because the secret could be Noble Sacrifice, or it could be Getaway Kodo, both of which would not be fun if you kill off the Hydrologist. Yeah,
Getaway Kodo especially because, already Hot Meowth hasn't gone to a crazy quick opening, which means you consider value plays, right? And Hydrologist into Getaway Kodo, play Hydrologist again, just keep cycling the card basically on and off the board. So definitely wants to try and avoid that. Whereas cycling a Vilefin, you can do fancy things with you play Vilefin, you hero power, play Vilefin, hero power again. Not the end of the world though, to be honest.
RDU's curve is looking a bit awkward next turn. Because he doesn't quite know what he's up against, he's saving these mana tides for later for a massive value war, presumably going to try and get them down in a situation where they just stay there for a long time. But he's going to get the news now that this is a bit quicker than maybe he'd given it credit for. And now he has to start taking some action, which involves setting up a volcano, but not volcanoing yet. This turn is just a portal turn, I think.
Yeah, well, he can either do Mana Tide or Portal, maybe, because he has the turn 5 volcano. He might feel he doesn't need to portal this turn. Get the value from Mana Tide. Presume trades are going to happen. You can clear off the Tide Caller anyway. That means that, this could be a coin finger, because you can kill the Mana Tide. Let's see what happens here.
Coin Kodo, another thing you could do just to deny the card, but Finger looks kind of nice with this Megasaur and the Rockpool Hunter in your hand.
Yeah, the Kodo is just a nice, clean, get wrecked Mana Tide. This looks like it's going to be Kodo. There we go. Okay.
Interesting, yeah.
I thought you hovered over Finger for a second.
Even though I mentioned the Kodo as an option, I did feel that maybe the Finger is slightly more powerful as an attempt, but perhaps they're trying to do that later, maybe trying to force some of this removal out of the Shaman's hand because they've only so far used one portal.
Oh yeah, and this is one of the main things that I was mentioning earlier about this Paladin. It's like, okay, Tide Caller is aggressive. Not necessarily. It's just a good Murloc in this list. You're playing Rock Pools anyway, you're playing Valfins anyway, because suddenly, you say, oh, I grow Murlocs because of Tide Caller.
Right.
It plays a Kodo. It's not that aggressive. Like, it's just basically just mid-range Murloc everything Paladin.
Mid-range Murloc everything, and the everything will include, almost certainly with this Kodo, the Curator.
Yeah.
Which means that the everything just keeps on everythinging you.
Yeah, pretty much. Just value for days, even a Ragnaros Light Lord, which means the deck can go even longer. And genuinely love seeing these Paladin lists because you just have no clue what's cut at this point. You're just like, what's in the list? Probably, and then
you can't even ask what's cut because there's no standard to draw from anymore. It's just like they've chosen to play these 30 cards. Like what's cut implies there's a standard, but at this point I don't even know if there is a standard. It's just a whole load of Paladin decks.
One of the things already here from Hot Meowth is if you're playing Ragnaros, you're okay with late game. If you're playing late game as Paladin, you probably want Stonehill. If you're playing Stonehills in late games, you're probably going to play Tyrion and Tarion because they're just great cards. So suddenly you're playing like late game Murloc Paladin, but with Tide Callers, which is fine. Tide Callers are only 2 cards, right? You can probably make a cut for those somewhere to give you the option for an aggressive opening.
They're just your mana worms for Paladin.
Exactly. Repentance going into RDU's turn 6. So not too many options here to try and negate this Repentance. RDU does have a Bloodmage Thanos, which will make the Repentance proc and gain no true effect. And into Maelstrom wouldn't be too terrible. Even Bloodmage Thanos into the Jade Lightning on the Kodo would be okay, but you're probably more worried about the width of this Murloc board.
Right. Devolve, of course, now a card that's getting a little bit of extra value in general because it takes away the Murlociness of your opponent's cards. Even if it doesn't necessarily change the stats favourably too much, it does get rid of all of the threats that the Murlocs are providing as Murlocs.
Same Murlocs a couple more times. We might have heard it enough. I believe we had the technical term of Murlociness as well, which I like.
That is indeed a technical term.
You only get all the first information here on the Hearthstone Global Games desk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good
for phrase.
For good words. Yeah, I'm your man.
So with Volcano, like I said, this is kind of tricky because you just need to clear these Murlocs off. Suddenly, a Megasaur out of nowhere just changes this board around completely and opens up some truly aggressive potentially. And now, after seeing the Volcano hit Finger, but is Devolve good enough?
It's important to point out they did dodge the Volcano onto the Finger there, something they have played around consciously, and the other AoE as well, Lightning Storm, etc. And like you say, is Devolve enough just to deal with a 2/4 Murloc?
It's not just a 2/4 Murloc, is it?
It is if you do nothing.
Ninja 2/4 Murloc.
It's a ninja 2/4 Murloc, sure.
Exactly. Uh-oh. It's going to throw a rock at him. How do you duck?
I'm so scared right now.
Oh,
got him.
Got him, yep. That's how do you.
That's the end of that then.
Yeah,
United States' hidden weapon is the catapult.
Yeah.
Okay, so RDU doesn't have... I can't think of a good option to not devolve this. You'll be thinking, what else can I devolve later? What is worth devolving later? Obviously, wide boards is one thing. But actually, as individual minions, most things don't devolve particularly well. Tyrion obviously is good. Raglightnor's okay.
There is the option for Tyrion for a devolve, but what you got to think about as well is if even just hero-powered Murlocs go wide on the board, and then Megasaur comes down with Divine Shield plus Health plus 1/1, the Death Rattle, devolve just wrecks all the work Megasaur does anyway. It reduces the minions down quite dramatically, but it's going to be the Jade Spirit come down from RDU. Finger's going to drop a couple more Murlocs onto the board, one of them being the War Leader. And now I feel like this is a good Megasaur time to follow up, try and get either Divine Shield plus Health, and try and just make these minions as awkward as possible to deal with.
Yeah,
you like it?
Exactly what we're going to see. A whole board of Murlocs.
I guess you go for attack. Shaman doesn't target you with anything.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Taunt doesn't matter, because if everything has Taunt, nothing has Taunt on the board pretty much. Yep. And Shaman has nothing on the board at the moment to even try and defend your health total, which is at max. So plus attack seems pretty reasonable to me. Pretty much saying, okay, either you deal with this or you die next turn, and devolve. This is a nice devolve potentially.
And RDU, I don't think he would have wanted this situation, but he's almost encouraged it to happen as well.
Yep, he gets. Oh, if he got spell damage, this was been a huge Blood Mage Thanos Maelstrom turn. But let's see the devolve. What comes out? Oh, Oracle and a War Leader. Brilliant. You're like, that wasn't supposed to be. The Megasaur turned into a Murloc. I'm sure that isn't a side effect.
Yeah, it just sounds like how Megasaurs should turn when they get old, to be honest. But yeah, RDU. Making, even though it's not value in terms of the cards coming out of the deck, so they're not actual cards, they are things that later on will mean there's less Murloc synergy in the United States deck.
Yeah, I do like the justice there of the Oracle giving Hot Meowth a devolve of his very own that he can play if he really needs to at this point. Could be... No, it's actually always worse versus Jades.
Yeah, they just
normally just give Jades bad things than just stats.
Right, exactly. Yeah, just stats is not always. It's a pretty efficient way of doing things, but Jade stats aren't particularly efficient. Otherwise they would be really ridiculous.
I don't know. 1 mana 10/10's pretty efficient to me.
Yeah, the old Cavern Rogue from many hours ago discussion where Southsea deckhand is a 1 mana 10/10.
Okay, so Ragnar's not going to do much except just provide a big dude onto the board. Primordial Drake actually just looks okay here. You can even just trade into the Imp if you really want to, or just push for 3. Everything else feels a little bit too slow. If you don't kill the Thanos here, it looks a little bit rough. You can Hero Power Valve Hero Power, as I said, but that just doesn't do anything when the 2 Hero Powers get killed by what's on the board regardless.
Yeah, so now you can use this Drake as a base to try and start building a wider board, with the ultimate aim being to turn a bunch of 1/1s into 3/3s and hit somebody in the face. But that ultimate aim is going to take some time to set up, and whilst that's going on, Romania have a 1 mana 5/5s in their hand and ever-increasing golems.
Yep. Only a 3/3 at the moment, but with a Jade Lightning, a Jade Spirit, and the Ire Death, unless it's devolved, those will rack up pretty quickly to 6s.
Right, at this point, I think United States just need to take a moment to work out how they intend to win the game. Because if they go into this value battle against the golems, now the golems are hitting a decent-looking size, they're not going to win that value battle.
Yeah.
If they try and build a wide board against a Shaman that hasn't used much AoE, that's not going to work either, although we can see it actually would. So they're going to have to find a way to... a long-term plan. As you can say, there's not much being said. I think all the players just trying to think, right, how are we going to proceed from here for the next few turns?
I actually just like here, like Aldor onto the Ire, and then you can just Hero Power Valve and Hero Power use the Drake on the totem. You build a wide enough board without really committing too much in case of AoE, and then Ire... well, can you trade off itself into the Drake to spawn the Golem, but then you can follow it with Tarim.
They're going to be really scared of Aya being sent back to hand. Maybe they just devolve here.
Why would Aya be sent back to hand?
Sorry,
oh, because of Spirit?
Yeah. You can't afford to have 2 Ayas do their thing. Oh my goodness! Aya's turned into Lyra, and RDU's face says this. Oh, he's got a handful of spells nearly. Well, he's got 2 spells.
Well, 2.
That's a handful. 3.
Okay, now we know the size of spells in hand. Lorinda's hands can carry 2 spells to get a handful. Pint-sized potion, Not too shabby, actually. Going to reduce the attack of this Drake down to 1, which means it could be traded into.
Miracle Shaman might be the miracle that Romania need in this matchup to keep themselves in the Hearthstone Global Games. If they do lose, they'll be 0-3.
Amber. Woo! Just to note, Lyra gives you priest cards regardless of the class you're playing. Just in case, it's started to become aware that in hand you see the pint-sized potion, the amber, but just in case anyone at home did not know, Lyra gives you the priest cards regardless of what class you may get her in.
Free from amber, giving all sorts of other options coming up as well.
Tons of value already. Even the egg, additional card draw from the Devolve.
United States with no activator for their equality here, and that's going to cause them a problem or 7.
I mean, Lyra's just active next turn as well.
They can't kill it, they can make it smaller, but Lyra doesn't care about being small. Lyra will just keep giving you stuff.
Or just get Divine Spirit and Inner Fire, it'll be fine.
Not only that, but they know there's at least 2 priest cards in hand now, and priest cards that were expensive because they weren't like just 0 mana silencers or whatever. And I think this is where RDU should just take control and start playing stuff.
I just like Line the Storm here.
Yep.
You could Hero Power beforehand. You've got plenty of mana. This is so much mana. And because his hand's so cheap, because the 2 things from below are 0, Ardu can almost do whatever he wants here. Potion of Madness. The Lightning Storm clears off the minions, right? Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. Oh, it cleared off the 1. Sure.
This is completely silly.
He can silence his 1/5 to get a 5/5 again with Purify. Why not? Draw a card to make it back into a 5/5. Hot Meowth is probably ruining the day that he put Devolve in his deck.
Yeah, and RDU is trying to keep a straight face here because it is important. This is a turn you can mess up if you get too overwhelmed by the silliness of the situation.
I am pretty sure RDU will be telling stories about this game for up until his Hearthstone retirement age.
That's a really good point, actually. Maybe we shouldn't have wished for this to happen.
No, I love it. I love RDU and his stories.
RDU stories are amazing things. If you've never seen RDU and his stories, you should definitely check out his stream. It is one of the most informative streams out there, with the occasional dose of salt thrown in.
Is this just lethal? So 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, it won't be lethal with the heal, of course. But there is 16 damage just from hand. Now 18 from damage just from hand for RDU already. So that's just a lot. He can kill off this Ragnaros Light Lord very easily and heal for 5, go back up to full health with this Holy Fire.
Yeah, it seems absolutely fine to me.
Madness, why not?
I love that. Why not?
Yeah, you can just make Sunkeeper tire him, his best friend. Hit for 3 and dodge the taunt next turn.
Yeah, and look at this hand in Hot Meowth's got now. He's got an equality that can't be activated. He's got a Murloc Tidecaller that doesn't really care if it's activated. He's got a Tarim that you definitely don't want to play. And a Vilefin that's already been played earlier.
Pretty much just needs to draw Consecrate.
Consecration would buy him some
Pyro,
time.
He's got it.
Yeah? Pyro would be better because then he could actually play the Tarim and occupy the board.
I mean...
Yeah. That. Bottom right, Mr. Meow. And RDU and Romania take a 2-1 lead. And a little bit fortuitous to get the Lyra, but they were already starting to get in front in the value war anyway.
Yeah, the whole idea was RDU actually put them in a position where they had to devolve, right?
Right.
And whenever that happens, when you devolve in high-cost minions, there is always a risk that they devolve into just more good minions. It's not like you devolve against an aggro druid.
Right.
2 mana / 1 mana to 0/1 mana, which are all just, they have to be small minions because that's all that's in the game. So, there's always that risk, and off the back of this new, I was talking about variations on Shaman, Lyra Shaman seems to be the best list I've seen so far in the past couple of days. We are moving on to Romania going 2-1 versus United States, and it is just Tracky Star left to play in the first 4 games to be able to maybe take this series for Romania and maybe just knock USA down a peg.
And only got to get through the former world champion, Firebat.
Former, is that just because you heard me in Sol discuss X?
Don't know what you mean.
Okay, so Tracky Star had the options of Mage and Druid, went with the Druid, whereas Firebat had the Priest and Hunter, and he's actually going to go for the Priest. So Druid versus Priest, imagine it is going to be, I know Tracky Star, I'm going to go for Aggro Druid, but Firebat with the Priest could be play anything. I know Firebat loves these sort of like fun decks, if that makes air quotes, if that makes sense, but also obviously a very serious competitor. And I feel like with Aggro Druid, Priest can actually just ruin them. Very similar to Priest versus Hunter. The the Potion of Madness, even just getting an early enough board to start doing silly things means you can get very positive trades. And the second the Druid loses the board, I feel like it could spell Doom for Extracky style.
Yeah, except Doom would be in Warlock.
Yeah, it would just spell Doom, it wouldn't cast it.
Right.
Like
Well, Moody spells Doom, but it's like backwards. So, yeah, very much a possibility.
Yeah, just a silent Y, as you do. You see the players getting ready, Extracky style and Hannibal Z chilling out together, and Firebat in his place on the comms. And I have no doubt he's wearing his Bat pants, as long as his Bat t-shirt as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense if your name is Bat.
Well, there is lucky pants. He actually wears them all the time to tournaments. I remember him telling me a story where he rocked up at a tournament and they asked him specifically not to wear them because he was on stage wearing pajama pants. But he was like, nope, they're my lucky pants.
So he wore them anyway.
He did wear them anyway.
Awesome.
It's Firebat. He does what he likes. As you can see, the 2014 Hearthstone World Champion. And in all honesty, Serious was joking about like Firebat's clothing choices. Generally, I think one of the players who's given the most to the Hearthstone community.
For sure.
Terms of he runs tournaments. He's was a great world champion on his reign of a year or so. And then he's funded, ran tournaments. He's released a lot of information and analysis about how he approaches the game, which pretty much paved the way for a lot of great players to learn from him as well.
Yeah, and the very first thing he did after winning the World Championship was turn off donations and tell people, donate to a streamer who needs it. I don't.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing he did.
Yeah, very nice guy. And his Extracky style, you mentioned that he actually had a major victory in the Tavern Tales Spring 2016. He defeated Moody, and I genuinely believe that Extracky style is a player who probably believes himself to be on the cusp, right?
Right.
Very much similar to a Crane style story, where he's very competitive. He plays very seriously, of course, but other than PGL Tavern Tales, which was now a year ago, pretty much, you need to just cement a strong performance. Unfortunately, winning one tournament is fantastic. It's the second and third tournament wins within a certain amount of time that really cement you as an ongoing pro and a high-level pro within the scene.
And that's something, again, I've stressed this a few times today, that the HGG event does do for these players. It's a chance to play not only against top professionals, but also with people like RDU helping you out, or at least giving you the benefit of their experience, so the whole team can bring together. And this will raise this second, third tier of pros up a long way, this event.
Also, as well, it's 10 weeks just in stage one. You just get to play a lot of Hearthstone against a lot of good players on stream, which doesn't exactly hurt a budding Hearthstone career. We are getting into the game, though. All on the line here. Romania can win this and take it home with the aggressive Druid list, also using the Druid of the Claws in this list as well. United States with Firebat piloting the Priest deck. Already looks like Dragon Priest to me. The couple of very stealthy Draconid operatives kind of giving it away.
Yeah, they're going to be coming through on turns 4 and 5, possibly here for a lot of value, but Extracky Star is going to have something to say about that. This Druid deck with the Murlocs can just be so explosive. And again, Druid of the Claw, as you mentioned a minute ago, something we're seeing more and more of now.
Yeah. But there are some key cards here for Firebat that he could get his hands on. Shadowword Pain, for example, to just ruin any early aggressive pushes. There is the Radiant Elemental in hand now for Firebat, so he can go 1-2 and start to contest the early Druid pushes that so often happen, but won't happen at the moment for Romania, because there is just an option of Innovate Murloc War Leader. Probably not the best opening I've ever seen.
Yeah, good call there from Firebat on the mulligan, realising that the punish for guessing wrong is just too much. And so you've got to go for that early curve. And Romania not messing around, just here's a Murloc.
Yeah, what's hilarious about this is we can see that this play has been done out of necessity. Literally the only cards he could play, the only push he can make, and next turn at the moment is Hero Power Pass for Extracky style. Push 4, whereas Firebat can be like, oh, okay, has he got another, has he got another Murloc to play? Has he got like Innovate War Leader for a second one? Something like truly crazy that could blow me out. And it's like, no, he's pretty much playing off the top. Luckily for Extracky style, though, he did get an Enchanted Raven off the top, so can continue to develop board.
Decisions to make already with this Druid deck. Obviously, the Noisia Cleric's such a huge threat for that card draw ability, but you can't draw cards if you're dead. So the Murloc already deciding which place to go, even on turn 2 there.
Well, Firebat Team USA have to make a tough call Radiant Elemental does just challenge this board. Either the Murloc War Leader kills itself in the trade, or it requires a Enchanted Raven and Hero Power, which means that if your opponent's Hero Powering this early, they're not developing, the wide, cheap board of minions that are buffable that Aggro Druid is known for.
And Romania just not getting the pickup they would like here. The Firefly obviously could make 2 minions if they want to, but they need to take down this Radiant Elemental before things get completely out of hand.
Yeah, I think now, because the Firefly's been picked up, the Hero Power and Raven Idol into 2-3 just is better, because the Murloc War Leader is a 3-2 instead of a 2-2, and can potentially buff other minions. One consideration is Mark of Yasharaj will draw a card on a Raven Idol and make it a 4-4, as opposed to the Murloc, which would make it a 5-attack minion and not a beast, so wouldn't draw, but quite a small consideration when you don't have that card available in hand anyway.
Just haven't done enough early damage here to be threatening the United States, though. Already they've got the option here to just coin out a Twilight Drake and have
a pretty good option.
Munching up a minion every single turn.
Yep. The joy of Twilight Drake is its reasonably high attack value for an early-ish minion you can play. So what this means is you can just almost guarantee, like you said, 1 minion a turn dead, right? There's not many minions that the Twilight Drake cannot kill. Now we see the fun interaction of Living Mana versus Priest with Holy Nova is just, you go, I go, let's just skip a turn, everyone, and carry on.
Right.
May as well discard 2 cards, move forward a turn, and then carry on with our lives.
But of course that does favour the Priest, because the Living Mana is one of the most important cards in the Druid deck, but Holy Nova is just a card it's going to be important, it's going to make sure they don't die, but it's just a card chilling in the Priest deck that's...
Well, the difference being that the Holy Nova is a high value outcome for the Priest.
Yes.
Getting Holy Nova sucks for the Druid, because they need their minions to live, of course.
Tracky Style is going to not have much left on the board going into next turn. He may actually, if Fireback decides to just drop this Twilight Drake, there may be a load of stuff here for Tracky Style.
I must consider.
There is a small consideration for, these are the turns now where you start saying, how much does Savage Roar do?
Yes.
With the minions that are on board. Because suddenly, Savage Roar into Savage Roar, you're just dead out of nowhere. And I think one of the most frustrating things against a deck like Aggro Druid, very similar to what we saw with Cereza, is when you think, I could have just played around that.
Right.
I could have just killed it. The game would continue. It wouldn't mean I definitely win, but it would mean I definitely don't lose that turn. And I know the key thing in Hearthstone is you play to win, not to not lose.
Yeah.
But against this deck, when so easily you can kill just 1 or 2 minions and be safe, is very important to consider.
Is there a window of opportunity here for Romania? So if they play the Living Mana and he gets Novad, and then they play another one, will they have that one turn where they can Savage Roar, depending how they manage their mana, so that they can get in that Savage Roar Living Mana? But instead just choosing to go for a much more stable looking board.
Okay.
With a
Romania win, I'm asking them about this turn. This turn walks straight into Holy Nova.
But was it on purpose?
But being Holy Nova this turn opens up, hey, Living Mana, go.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very interesting. We talked, in our previous series, we cast, that the manipulation of when Living Mana can come out to play and how to use it exactly is very difficult, but it is one of the cards that just wins you a game out of nowhere.
Now they're going to be able to go incredibly wide here.
You can even play the Hungry Crab this turn. Again, to just manipulate what mana is available.
But this time it doesn't fill the whole board, so there would still be
that's true.
a whole board. Last time,
right. Yeah, sorry, it's one off,
Sure.
Yeah. Tell a lie. This will fill it out indeed.
One turn away from the Drake, but that looks a lot of damage. I know they can't Savage Roar before anybody pulls me up on that, but just hitting people with 2/2s hurt when there's this many of them.
Well, that's it. It's just the value, right? These are minions that, like, one card, fill the board with 2/2s. Like, that's just so much value no matter what happens. The second Firebat starts trading into these, well, one, it activates Savage Roar for whatever's
But he
left.
can't kill 2 of them.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, you activate Savage Roar, which is nuts. But if you don't kill them, they just punch you in the face, which is kind of like Savage Roar anyway. So it's very, very strange indeed.
Yeah, so Firebat's actually looking at killing the Crab here to make sure he doesn't activate the Savage Roar.
Oh, there's one.
Yeah, he can kill 1, but he can't kill 2. Realising
Damage,
that.
though.
Still 10 damage.
Just 10. So it's like, okay, I'll play around being Savage Roared for 1 million, but take 10 when I'm on 21. You know, it's so awkward, isn't it? If he doesn't kill it, he goes for 12 instead.
Goes for 12 instead, and all sorts of options here for Romania. Right through, punch you for 12, and there's also the option to punch you for 8, and obviously, yeah, there's any combination of which things do you want to kill here.
Firefly seems good to me. I just like Firefly Go. If they clear your board, guess what? Living mana again. And you get into the point where you will have the mana for Savage Roar.
Yeah.
As the turns go on,
Yeah.
of course.
Indeed, though, because they can hit for 8, kill off this Twilight Drake fairly easily, and then play 2 Fireflies, which is still a pretty menacing-looking board. It also means that you get mana back online for next turn. In case you top deck, say, a Mark of the Lotus into your Savage Roar, even with 3 or 4 minions.
I'm just wondering what the consideration here is like for killing the Drake. Are you afraid of Argus? Probably not. Still, well, that's some interesting actually. Your opponent can coin Drake. We can see Firebat has
Right.
but you've still, you know, the whole squad of Romania will notice that the coin has not been played, right?
Right.
And it is Dragon Priest, so there's a chance this whole board can get cleared, and there needs to be a kind of a battle plan here as to how do they deal with this Drake. And this is the reason why Drake's just a hell of a good card. It's like deals 2 to the board, and it's a 4/8 taunt, an absolutely huge amount of health. The coin even helping with this Priest of the Feast to heal a little bit more. This might be the roadblock that just stops Romania taking this series this game.
Let's see. I think the living mana comes here, and then it's all about numbers.
Yep.
As always.
I think you have to, right? Is anything else good enough? There's still blue.
There's things you can do. Yeah, you can do this first just to get an extra point of armor. You can also put the bluegill into the Drake just to do 2 preemptive damage first.
Yeah, I think because you're presuming these minions are going to be traded off, Bluegill Savage Roar is pretty reasonable actually, because it's only 5 mana. If you have half of this board cleared off, then suddenly you have 5 mana to do that anyway, which kind of, as you said earlier, if the minions get traded away, but that enables Savage Roar, well, Savage Roar, every single minion on the board is like having an additional one of these Trents because it's +2.
Yep, and they've just chosen to eat 4 damage just to put 1 damage onto this Drake as well. Just making that a little bit easier to punch through next turn with the right amount of mana. Double powered shield here, which is extra healing, extra everything, extra badness for Romania.
Yeah, and this Radiant Elemental really showing its worth here, allowing with combination the Priest of the Feast. This one turn, Firebat has increased the health on this taunt to 11, which is incredibly difficult to get through, has cleared off some of these minions, has healed almost back to full, and has held onto a board.
Makes you wonder why you bother when you're sat on the other side, and this all happens like you put all this work in for 5 or 6 turns to do this, and it just, no.
Yeah, absolutely backbreaking turn here. And I believe, depending on what this draw is going to be, Vicious Fledgling, an amazing card. And funny thing about this card is this card's included mainly because the card Innovate exists. You can innovate this guy out on 1, and then often you just win the game as the aggro druid.
Right, if that was the Murloc War Leader on turn 1, this game would probably have been very different.
Definitely.
But it was not.
No, and Firebat just taking a victory sip out of his smiley cup. I like his style. Looking quite serious, though. But yeah, it's a good win there. That looked very, very dicey for a lot of that game. But, Volk Drake clearing it. I always call it Volk.
I'm not going to pick on you.
Primordial Drake clearing up most of the board. And then, there was a chance that the Savage Roar comes out with a few trades. He punches through the taunt. Then you just continue the game plan. But then the Elemental going into Powered Shield, Shadow Word Pain. Absolutely incredible. And Firebat has evened it all up. And we are going to be going to an ace match. Amnesiac versus Moody. Rogue on rogue action. Whichever way this is going, it's probably going to be over pretty quick. Because I'm going to be a bit adventurous here, Lorinda, and say at least one of these guys is bringing Quest Rogue.
Yeah, that's what usually happens when you're adventurous. You go on a quest.
Exactly. And the Miracle Rogue was all the rage a couple of weeks ago when the list that
Cross was one of the people Eloise made it number 1 legend.
The list that Cross, Casey, and then Eloise sort of played into High Legend first came out. I played a lot of that list as well. It's definitely a lot of fun, but the more and more people are tinkering with Quest Rogue, it's like, okay, although this deck can be pretty dumb on one hand in terms of, well, if you just have all the bounces early enough, yeah, you get the quest and win.
Yep.
When, the higher level, and more you put into this deck, similar to what Sol was saying earlier about Osaka taking some time with this deck, is that actually you can go, this deck is actually pretty good. You don't always need to draw like the nuts, for example, to be able to just put it all out on turn 4 and then win. You can actually play this deck a little bit longer, a little bit more tactically, and actually just eke out wins that you shouldn't really be allowed to get.
And we saw earlier that the mirror is actually incredibly complicated. It's still a race. The person who gets there first is in a very good spot, but a lot of the trading is you have to plan it very carefully. What if they've got a charge minion? What if they haven't got a charge minion? How many minions versus how many do I want? Am I going to be behind at the end of my next turn? Because sometimes you've got 3 minions versus 0. You think you're in front and nasty things happen.
Yeah, even dagger attacks. On where you need to put the daggers in, when you put the daggers in, when do you use the daggers to trade versus face damage to push the extra, multiple of 5.
Oh,
although it does.
Forget all that.
Well, I said one of them was going to play Quest.
You were right.
Yeah, so Moody is in fact going to play the Miracle list, whereas Amnesiac going for the Quest Rogue. One of the ways this Miracle list can really work out versus the Quest Rogue is if they go crazy on an early Cleave, or if they're playing the Arcane Giant version, they just get like, say turn 5, when you're expecting the quest to be done, they go, Van Cleave, Giant, or something ridiculous.
Right.
They've played tons of spells early on. There's already was the potential of 2 backstabs available there. But, a lot of early spells. You can get those Giants out and then win in one swing before the Quest Rogue can get it done. But Amnesiac looking pretty solid so far.
Yeah, one thing that Quest Rogue has got less and less able to do is defend itself against big things. Obviously, no sap was there for basically the whole existence of the deck. Things like Backstab, Eviscerate, long gone as well. And so if you can get a start as the Miracle, and Questing Adventure and Sherazin are 2 cards that can help you do that, then there is just a chance. But one way you can defend yourself, going forward at least for the United States, is that Glacial Shard.
Yeah.
It's really, really good against 8/8 Questing Adventurers. Functions a little bit like Sap in that regard.
Yeah, and with the Questing Adventurers, you can kind of ignore what I was saying about the Arcane Giants, because they're the cards that pretty much are interchangeable. So, see what happens here. The hand for Moody, got the Swashbuckler available, or just a hero power just to already get that dagger up and live, because let's be honest, anything that is played onto the board for the first few turns of Quest Rogue is very, very weak and susceptible to dagger swings.
Interesting to see the USA are playing Backstab in their build as well. Not the most popular card these days. Obviously a very, very good card, hard to leave out your Rogue. And with Dog being particularly a die-hard Rogue fan, maybe someone turned and said, look, we're not taking Backstab out as well.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm going to go for a Shadow Caster. And you know why this is, Lorinda? Because Sherazin is a card. So create a 1/1 copy of Sherazin.
Nice.
Sherazin dies. Oh, it comes back as a 5/3. Brilliant.
Seems like a good pick to me. And not a great deal was happening here for America, but now they're going to get their Mimic Pod. Let's see what they pull. This is really important.
Oh, that's a good one.
Firefly is important indeed. It's a good one with Shadow Step in hand. They're going to get very close. It is a little bit slow, but not very. And it does mean you get more 5/5s when you do finally go off. And yeah, Romania not hanging about there, just going for maximum bigness in their
you
cards.
Just go aggressive. Again, what I was saying earlier was like, how does the Quest Rogue deal with stuff early on? And there's just iron to iron. What's really funny is the Hallucination gave them a Jade Shuriken as an option. So they could have gone, you know what? Let's play Jade Rogue against this deck and see how it performs.
Badly.
Probably.
Only because too slow though, but yeah, the Jade Synergy would have been absolutely hilarious if that had come out there. And
Swashbuckler giving the same card twice. That's the odds on that is kind of crazy, right?
yeah,
It's like just minuscule, like point
yeah,
something of a percent.
it depends how many cards are available. Something like 100 cards available, so something like 1% probably.
Crazy. Sherazin's going to go down, though. Shadowcaster being hovered over already by Romania here. Being able to just generate an additional 1/1 copy, but it could not be played next turn because the copy goes into your hand, right?
Right.
So, it can be played the turn after to get that value. But already Moody building up a strong board here. And to be honest, look at Amnesiac's health, 19. It's getting pretty low.
It is getting pretty low, and there will be Eviscerates and Cold Blood. And yeah, there's something else. Maybe even a Leroy chilling here.
Eviscerates, and a Cold Blood.
There might be a Leroy because we're playing the Questings. We're not playing the Giant, so that's
Always
another
possible.
thing. And so United States will have to manipulate this Glacial Shard very, very carefully to make sure that no accidents occur. But
This is just a lot of stuff.
it's a lot of 5/5s coming in.
Do you like playing one of these minions down this turn? Because you have the mana spare, and also it means that you can play one and play another one next turn with the quest anyway, so you just may as well, right?
That's how they seem to see it. This does mean that the Glacial Shard card can be tidied up, though.
I don't think you care at this point.
You don't, but you have to be careful because that means that Sherazin might get through once or twice. And on 18, you can't afford it to come through too many times.
Yeah, I think the overall plan here is get the Crystal Core down, build a huge board, and hope you can OTK them here.
Yeah, with no charge minions, the United States are just going to have to sort of fiddle around a little bit more than they would like.
Okay, is there a world in which you play everything except the quest and the fragment? And you say
You've seen one fan of knives
you've seen
already.
one fan of knives, you've seen a backstab, I think, already. So do you just say you need literally, second fan of knives with spell damage to beat this board? And okay, you could play the ferryman instead of the novice engineer to make it more durable. But you could say, look, you've only got Sherazin on the board. If Sherazin trades into a minion,
Right.
great. Then I've saved 5 health, right? If it doesn't, I can just kill you next turn.
And they didn't pick up the spell damage required there that you mentioned. There is a hallucination which may give them something useful.
What could they hallucinate to?
Fan, but they haven't got enough mana.
Yeah. Even just a backstab would kind of help out here. They can still they can backstab one fan and then trade into another trade.
Another Jade offering, by the way, here. Sinister Strike might be important. They've got a charge minion in hand. They can go face with Sherazin here for 5.
Well, it could. I wonder. It's probably not good enough because there's a hand. There is like Shadowcaster, the Sherazin coin Sherazin, but that just doesn't deal with the problems you have in life here as this rogue.
Yeah, they've got to also be careful, the rogue. If this novice engineer is actually a charge minion, they're dead next turn. So Romania do have to be a bit careful. He's actually going to just take out a load of minions here, feeling that they've got the opportunity to play a longer game.
Yeah, and now, Amnesiac can actually just... Oh,
Whiff
crap.
is what he can do.
Well, is it a whiff?
Well, we'll see after this novice
draws,
engineer.
yeah.
Right.
Prep into the quest is really nice. Prep into Mimic Pod is reasonable as well. Do you just prep Mimic Pod?
I think you do.
Try and
You're
get
going to anyway. You might as well do it now and see what happens.
Well, if you get minions, you can do the same turn again last turn, right?
Yeah.
Play more minions. There's both fans gone. Your opponent just struggled to deal with the board as it was. If you play 2 more minions this turn, and then again you just Crystal Call the turn after, they must be getting close to charge minions at this point. They just have to be. These charges is huge. Glacial Shards, though.
That's also pretty big.
I would play Glacial Shards this turn. Oh, he's going to core.
Yeah, you have seen both fans now, so...
Yeah, but what if you just went Shard to face in Sherazin?
They're just saying, you can't kill me. They're just saying, we're going to kill you next turn. Killers.
This doesn't sound lethal, though.
It doesn't as far as Amnesiac's concerned. However, you're sat on the other side. Moody doesn't know what was drawn. If that's a boar, it's game over next turn. You've got to trade.
Yeah. Okay, well, double coin with Gadgets and he's looking.
And Mimic Pod, which will have just enough mana to play. Coins
another coin.
everywhere.
Triple coin. Oh, okay, he's playing Giants. Okay, I take it all back. Giants and Quest Event.
And that's really important because that Giant's going to be able to be played this turn. And there's also Prep Mimic Pod coming in as well. And as it stands, Romania are not dying next turn.
Wow.
If this is a Giant, all craziness breaks loose. It's actually a Slayer, which is kind of important.
Yeah, I generally would have just liked to see the Glacial Shards. Because you just freeze the Sherazin, you freeze the face. The odds are nothing's realistically going to come out. And then you have still next turn to do this. But let's see what comes out. Backstab! Not good! United States! Not good at all.
How do you deal with this? Obviously the Shards, but the Shards just don't die. But
You can Shard the 5-3 in the 8-8, double trade. Sorry, you can trade 1 and hero power backstab. The 3, you kill the gadget zen with one of the minions, and then you have 20 damage on board. Well, 21 damage with the dagger, I guess. And the 2 minions that are the problems can't attack. So this is working out okay. And then, as Amnesiac and Team United States here, you've got to say, look, we put charge minions in this deck. There's been no pirates played. Deckhand is the 1 mana 10 damage.
Okay, so Razor Petal Lasher will kill the 5/1 and activate the Vile Spine, which means that Romania will get another turn. Another turn will set up lethal for them, and it will all be down to the US draw. Can they draw a charge minion, or maybe another way of freezing stuff? Otherwise, they're going to die. Let's see what happens.
That'll do it! Fist Pump for Amnesiac is the charge minion you never want to draw unless it's for lethal, and it's a 1 mana 5/5 patches. Moody, head in hands. Amnesiac, happiest I've probably ever seen him at that win. Very, very close for United States, but Amnesiac does take the last game. 3-2 win over Romania. What a close one there, Lorinda.
So close. All came down to that last draw. Obviously, as you had said, all the way through, they hadn't picked up a single charge minion. They were entitled to draw one. There were many of them in the deck. But Romania kept finding ways to stay alive there, and they set up lethal for next turn.
Well, look how important the Glacial Shards were. You know, the Mimic Pod into the 2 additional ones. If that didn't happen, they just die. Like, you know, there's the Giants on the board, still the Sherazin can attack, but you can see how the shape of this series went overall. Dog off to a quick win with the Pirate Warrior yet again, but then Amnesiac and Hot Meowth dropping games. Firebat winning with his Priest in quite convincing fashion, or it was a little bit close, mainly the Drake keeping him alive there, and then Amnesiac in the Rogue Mirror versus Moody that we just saw. Very, very close series indeed, and probably shook USA a little bit. You know, the kind of top dogs in the group at the moment, feeling great, and they've got to be feeling fantastic now as a 3-0 lead in the group. And I believe we have the young savage, Amnesiac, on the call. Are you, can you hear me, mate? Oh, you're crackling something on me.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, I'm good. So congratulations on that win. That was a lot closer than the other matches you've played out so far in global games. How tense was that Rogue game at the end for you there?
Yeah, my team going to game 5, I was like, yeah, this is like the 10th game of Quest Rogue I ever played. And they're like, really? This deck is really hard. I'm like, nah, we'll be fine. And we're playing out the game, and I complete the quest, and I'm like, guys, this was not hard. And they're like, we can still lose. And then we're playing, and they play the Arcane Giant, and we're like, I guess we can lose. And then I was like, okay, we set up game. They don't have any more Phantom Knives. Like 3 of their cards are just random rogue nonsense. They ripped the Razor Petal Lasher and then the Vile Spine. I'm like, I kind of need to draw lethal. And I get the patches. I'm like, yeah, sometimes drawing patches is just really good.
Yeah, to be fair, the Mimic Pod into the Glacial Shards was very important, so you could freeze the 2 big minions. And then honestly, I was saying actually, you know, before your final couple of turns that you draw no charge minions really, you know, all game. You're probably due 1 anyway, so still very close.
Yeah, how does it feel also not only to almost certainly go through, but to put away one of the better teams in the tournament, like Romania probably condemned now to not getting through?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some tough matches. We had the Netherlands who are really strong. I mean, the UK is free, but like, you know.
Come on.
And then obviously Romania is a really strong team as well.
I don't want to talk to you anymore, to be honest.
You want to ask a very important question.
I've got one question that's got nothing to do with Hearthstone, right? So I cast USA a couple of weeks ago now. There was a shoebox with shoes on randomly on the floor behind you. Why is this, and why does this shoebox never move?
I gotta give a shout out to my team, Energy. We did a deal with Reebok, and so they some sweet kicks.
Why did I give him the opening? I joked there was some kind of sponsorship.
I'm not done, Raven. You know, it's not basketball season, but when it is, I'm gonna be balling up in those.
Okay. Well, at least I answered my question.
Store.energy.gg if you want some sweet gear. I'm just saying.
We've heard enough out of you, Amnesiac. We are done. But no, honestly, congratulations. Great performance by Team USA already. You know, 3-0 up in groups must feel great. So thanks a lot for taking the time to speak to us, and good luck in the rest of your games.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Always great to hear from Amnesiac, even if he tries to troll us hard saying the UK is free.
Why do we interview these people?
I don't know.
We fall for it every time.
These people, Amnesiac specifically, to be honest. But no, we're joking around a little bit with Amnesiac as we always do, but genuinely a great performance by United States. You can't really argue with the results, right? Even that series that was very close, he did manage to pull it out of the bag in the end, and we can see the impact that it's had in the group. They're one very happy team. United States 3-0 with a 9-3 record. Very close to being uncatchable at this point in that first place spot. Whereas Romania, quite the opposite, or exactly the opposite, 0-3 with a 3-9 record. Almost certainly takes them out of this.
Yeah, 2 3-0 wins would put them to 9-9 on 2 and 3, which might just about be enough. If loads of teams are on a negative record and you're 9-9, you might be okay, but they're not going to fancy their chances at all from this point on. And one of the biggest shocks of the tournament so far, I would say. Yeah,
and especially that match, they've give United States the best run for the money out of any of the other teams, but just wasn't quite close enough. Those Glacial Shards, they are good cards. And we see the overall shape of this series where Dog just, doing his job with the Pirate Warrior, getting it done. And this, on one hand, I feel like Pirate Warrior is pretty decent against Hunter anyway, but also just kill command, bow was the opening hand there for the Hunter. So
yeah, that just was one of those games that wasn't a game. Yeah.
But what was a game was Romania playing Zoo and winning, which is something we have not seen for a while from Warlock. But Galaka Crawler probably had something pretty large to say about this game.
Yeah, going back to 1-1 there, Crawler was pretty silly.
Also, just the discards, the guaranteed discard into Silverware Golem, into Doomguard off the top, into the second Silverware Golem is like, okay, if Zoo could do this every single game, sure, it's back in the meta.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are giving Warlock a slightly hard time at the moment. It does have a place in a 9-class format. Obviously, there's 9 classes, but it has a place in a format where you're trying to counter other decks a lot, which this definitely is. So you can build it to do things, but it's still a class that you're trying to get nothing out of. You're trying to avoid having to play it.
And then we saw more from this style of Shaman with quite the amount of value, but the Devolve there kicking out some interesting cards. We did see a couple of wonky Devolves today, I feel like. Today was not the day of Devolves, and I feel like Sottle is slowly creeping up on this Devolve score, and we've been going since Winter Championships for HCT. Now we see the power of, not quite yet, but the power of Coin Primordial Drake.
Right.
See the Holy Nova, which I thought was potentially played into on purpose by Romania to set up this Living Mana, but then guess what else does 2 damage to the board? Big Daddy Primordial Drake there, clearing it up. Was a chance of pushing through with the second Living Mana, but then just, Powered Shield into Powered Shield was huge.
Yeah, this thing just got absolutely gigantic because of the Radiant Elemental as well. And just not getting through a 4-11 Primordial Drake. And the board just got wiped out anyway, to be honest.
So this was starting the comeback here for Team USA, with Firebat evening up the series 2-2 with this victory. And then it all came down to the Rogue Mirror between Moody and Amnesiac, the one you just saw. The one that was very, very tense indeed. And Amnesiac openly admitting, yeah, I played about 10 games of Quest Rogue. I'm sure it's fine. The rest of his team are like, sorry, what? You didn't tell us this before. We gave you the deck. This is a problem. See the quite ludicrous amount of value you get from Elemental while I'm jumping in a little bit talking about the Rogue game, but it was pretty nuts.
This game was navigated really well by the USA. It was quite an easy win the way the cards panned out, but it wasn't badly navigated at all.
You did just see the Rogue game. No too much need for a quick recap here, and I think we can actually just recap the day.
Cool.
Talking about it's been a slightly longer one today with 6 series overall. Just to go over again, Israel started off the day with a 3-2 victory over Norway. Feeling good about that one. France, we saw the excitement from Talk, and a certain old god in the form of Yogg-Saron have a say in that victory over Kazakhstan.
Belarus are opening their account, or trying to, but actually the account is still closed on 0-3 as the Czech Republic really steamrolled that particular match. It's the only 0-3 of the day.
Yeah, it was a really strong one. Then Bulgaria beat out Sweden again. Just, we were talking about Sweden earlier. Just feels like they're either, amazing or you just stumble a little bit. And we did see a bit of stumbling going on today. Then Greece versus Portugal, a great series of two very passionate countries about Hearthstone.
Passionate countries about Hearthstone, and also with several trolls on the team, as we saw with Leica Boss there in his interview, and we rounded it off with the big one.
Yeah, it was United States versus Romania to finish off the day. Very, very close one. Very important match for both of those teams, and it ended up being United States clearing up their series and taking it 3-0 so far in the group. So gotta be feeling fantastic for them.
Yeah, 3-0, almost certainly to go through, especially as they pretty much smashed through. I know it's 3-2 today, but they haven't been tested massively.
Have a 9-3 score total.
Yeah,
so
they're going to be in a very good spot to get to phase 2, where we get down to just the last 24 teams.
yeah, and that is going to be it from us today. So we've had 6 matches today, 5 matches yesterday, and there are a couple more matches coming up tomorrow that will be delivered by our lovely colleagues, Rob Wing. And I believe Cora's with him. I'm not 100%, but I think so. So it's going to be Argentina versus New Zealand and Hong Kong versus my pick, South Korea. So I'll definitely be tuning into that tomorrow. Fingers crossed that South Korea, for my own personal pride, Liz, take the victory. But Hong Kong, by no means a pushover. So yeah, that's going to be it from us today. I hope you enjoyed all the matches. There was a lot of cool things going on. So from me, Lorinda, of course, and Sol, the rest of the team here, we hope you have a fantastic evening, morning or afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. We're going to be back with more Hearthstone Global Games next week from the European office here with us. And then tomorrow it's going to be Rob Wing and Cora. So thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.